This is the listening section. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 10. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 10.
Hi, I would like to book the theater for a school play. Would you be able to help me?
Sure, I'd be happy to help you set up a school play at a theater. What is the name of the play and when is it scheduled to take place?
The play is called Romeo and Juliet and it's scheduled to take place on April 15th.
Great, Romeo and Juliet is a classic play that is sure to be a hit with your school's audience. The first step in setting up a school play is to secure a venue. Have you already secured a theater for the play?
No, I haven't secured a theater yet.
Okay, that's the first step. You'll need to research local theaters and see if any of them have availability on April 15th. Once you find a theater that is available, you'll need to work out the details of the rental agreement, such as the cost and the terms of the rental. Once the theater is secured, you can start working on other details such as casting, rehearsals, costumes, lighting, sound, marketing, and ticket sales. You'll also need to work with the theater to determine the technical requirements for the performance, such as sound and lighting. This might include providing a detailed technical rider, which is a document that outlines the specific technical requirements of the performance. You'll also need to work with the theater to ensure that the performance complies with all local regulations, such as fire codes and accessibility regulations. You'll also need to work on marketing and ticket sales, which will help ensure a good turnout for the performance. This might include creating posters and flyers, reaching out to local media, and setting up an online ticket sales system. It's a lot of work, but with good planning and organization, you should be able to put on a successful performance of Romeo and Juliet. Is there anything else I can help you with? You have some time to check your answers.
Part 2. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 20. Listen to a topic on history of the airplanes. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15.
The dream of flying is as old as mankind itself. However, the concept of the airplane has only been around for 2 centuries. Before that time, men and women tried to navigate the air by imitating the birds. They built wings to strap onto their arm or machines with flapping wings called ornithopters. On the surface, it seemed like a good plan. After all, there are plenty of birds in the air to show that the concept does work. The trouble is, it works better at bird scale than it does at the much larger scale needed to lift both a man and a machine off the ground. So folks began to look for other ways to fly. Beginning in 1783, a few aeronauts made daring, uncontrolled flights in lighter-than-air balloons, filled with either hot air or hydrogen gas. But this was hardly a practical way to fly. There was no way to get from here to there unless the wind was blowing in the desired direction. It wasn't until the turn of the 19th century that an English baronet from the gloomy moors of Yorkshire conceived a flying machine with fixed wings, a propulsion system, and movable control surfaces. This was the fundamental concept of the airplane. Sir George Cayley also built the first true airplane, a kite mounted on a stick with a movable tail. It was crude, but it proved his idea worked, and from that first humble glider evolved the amazing machines that have taken us to the edge of space at speeds faster than sound. This wing of the museum focuses on the early history of the airplane, from its conception in 1799 to the years just before World War I. Because we are a museum of pioneer aviation, we don't spend a great deal of time on those years after Orville Wright closed the doors of the Wright Company in 1916. We concentrate on the development of the airplane before it was commonplace, when flying machines were odd contraptions of stick, cloth, and wire. Engines were temperamental and untrustworthy, and pilots were never quite sure whether they'd be able to coax their machine into the air or bring it down in one piece.
You have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Listen to the rest of the topic, answer questions 16 to 20.
A history of the airplane is divided into 4 sections. First is the century before. In 1799, Sir George Cayley defined the forces of lift and drag and presented the first scientific design for a fixed-wing aircraft. Building on his pioneering work in aeronautics, scientists and engineers began designing and testing airplanes. A young boy made the first manned flight in a glider designed by Cayley in 1849. Other scientists, such as Francis Wenham and Horatio Phillips, studied cambered wing designs mounted in wind tunnels and on whirling arms. Finally, in 1894, Sir Hiram Maxim made a successful takeoff, but a woefully uncontrolled flight, in a biplane test rig. At the same time, Otto Lilienthal made the first controlled flights, shifting his body weight to steer a small glider. Inspired by his success, Wilbur and Orville Wright experiment with aerodynamic surfaces to control an airplane in flight. Their work leads them to make the first controlled, sustained, powered flights on December 17, 1903 in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Second, the decade after. Immediately after the Wright brothers make their first powered flights in 1903, they begin to develop their experimental aircraft into a marketable product. By 1905, they have what they consider to be a practical flying machine. Other experimenters learn of their work and begin to build on their success. By 1906, would-be pilots are making tentative hops in uncontrollable aircraft. By 1909, after watching the Wrights' flying demonstrations, they grasped the brilliance and necessity of three-axis aerodynamic control. The performance of their aircraft quickly catch up to, then surpass Wright flyers. The capabilities of and the uses for aircraft expand as designers and pilots introduce floatplanes, flying boats, passenger aircraft, observation platforms fitted with radios and wireless telegraphs, fighters, and bombers. As World War I approaches, aircraft have become an essential part of war and peace. Third, pilots, planes, and pioneers. The history of pioneer aviation is resplendent with heroes and heroines who took spindly, underpowered aircraft and accomplished amazing things. They were an odd collection of scientists, entrepreneurs, adventurers, soldiers, and people who just wanted to push personal and cultural boundaries. What they all had in common is that they blazed the first trails through the sky and, in doing so, changed the world. This is a collection of short biographies, arranged alphabetically. We have added longer bios for a few pioneers, and will add more as time allows. Fourth is, who was first? Almost as soon as the news of the Wright brothers' first flights at Kitty Hawk and Huffman Prairie became known, there were claims that others had been the first to fly. We shouldn't deny these wannabes the acclaim they deserve. They are true aviation pioneers and visionaries. It's interesting to note that with only a few exceptions, none claimed this honor for themselves. It was claimed for them, often many years after they had completed their work. And the people who made these claims often had transparent reasons, reputations to uphold, axes to grind, books to sell, and tourism to encourage. The accounts presented here reflect the conclusions of the majority of aviation historians. We also address a favorite of conspiracy theorists, a controversial agreement between the Wright estate and the Smithsonian, allegedly designed to suppress whatever truth du jour needs suppressing. End of part 2. You have some time to check your answers.
Part 3. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 30. Now listen carefully to a lecture on African elephants and answer questions 21 to 30.
African elephants are the largest land animals in the world and are native to 37 countries in sub-Saharan Africa. They are known for their distinct tusks, which are highly valued for their ivory. African elephants are also known for their intelligence, complex social structures, and strong family bonds. African elephants are divided into two subspecies, the savanna elephant and the forest elephant. Savanna elephants are found in grasslands, savannas, and woodlands, while forest elephants are found in the dense rainforests of Central and West Africa. The two subspecies differ in size, with forest elephants being smaller and having straighter tusks, while savanna elephants are larger and have more curved tusks. African elephants have a distinct physical appearance. They have gray skin, which is thick and tough to protect them from thorns and sharp grass. They have a long trunk, which they use for a variety of tasks such as grasping food, drinking water, and communicating with other elephants. They also have large ears that they use to dissipate heat and to communicate with other elephants through infrasonic calls. African elephants are herbivores and they eat a wide variety of plants, including grasses, fruits, bark, and leaves. They can eat up to 300 pounds of food in a single day. They are also known to eat soil, which helps them to obtain essential minerals. African elephants have a complex social structure and strong family bonds. They live in herds led by a dominant female, known as the matriarch. The matriarch is responsible for leading the herd to food and water sources, and for protecting the herd from predators. The herd also includes females, known as cows, and their young, known as calves. Adult males, known as bulls, typically leave the herd when they reach maturity and live solitary lives or in small bachelor groups. African elephants have a strong sense of memory and are known to recognize other elephants they have met in the past, even after many years. They also have a strong sense of empathy and have been observed mourning the loss of a herd member. African elephants are facing a number of threats, including habitat loss and poaching for their ivory tusks. The illegal ivory trade has led to a significant decline in elephant populations, with estimates of the savanna elephant population decreasing by 30% between 2007 and 2014. Habitat loss is another major threat to African elephants. As human populations continue to grow, elephants are losing their natural habitats to agriculture, urbanization, and mining. This has led to an increase in human-elephant conflicts, with elephants destroying crops and causing damage to property. Conservation efforts have been put in place to protect African elephants. Many countries have banned the ivory trade and have implemented stricter laws to protect elephants from poaching. Protected areas have also been established to provide safe habitats for elephants. Additionally, community-based conservation programs have been implemented to help reduce human-elephant conflicts and provide financial benefits to local communities. In conclusion, African elephants are a unique and fascinating species that play an important role in the ecosystems of sub-Saharan Africa. They are known for their intelligence, complex social structures, and strong family bonds. However, they are facing a number of threats, including habitat loss and poaching. Conservation efforts are essential to protect these majestic animals and ensure their survival for future generations.
This is the end of part 3. You have some time to check your answers.
Part 4. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. You will hear a study given on extinction of animals. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
What is extinction? When a species becomes extinct, all its genetic heritage is lost. The species evolve into new species in order to adapt to the environmental changes or changes in the genetic heritage. Over 99% of all the species that once lived on the Earth, amounting to over 5 billion species, are estimated to be extinct. As per the estimations on the number of current species, a range from 10–14 million, of which more than 1.2 million have been studied, and more than 86% have not yet been discovered. This could happen naturally due to change in the climate or because of human activities like overhunting or the destruction of habitat. Despite the uncertainties, extinction has three major elements. For species collectively, extinction is a probability if the killing stress is so rare beyond their experience, and therefore outside the reach of natural selection. The mass extinctions would pave the way for the major restructuring of the biosphere, where a few successful groups are eliminated, allowing minor groups to expand. In a few cases, there is evidence that extinction is selectively argued by Darwin. It has been made impossible to predict which species are going to be the next victim of an extinction event. Causes of extinction. The important causes of extinction include asteroid strikes. A meteor strike on the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico led to the disappearance of dinosaurs millions of years ago. Most of the mass extinctions, such as KT extinction or Permian-Triassic extinction, were caused due to such events. Astronomers constantly keep an eye on comets or meteors that could lead to the end of human civilization. Climate change. Climate change is yet another factor that could destroy terrestrial organisms. During the end of the last ice age, most of the megafauna were unable to adapt to the changing warm temperatures. They died due to a lack of food and hunting by early humans. Even modern civilization is stepping towards the threat of extinction due to global warming. Disease. Various epidemics had been the cause of the epidemic of a large population of humans and animals on Earth. The Black Death wiped out 1/3 of the European population in the Middle Ages. Loss of habitat. Every animal has its own comfort zone where it can breed and raise its young ones. For e.g., a bird is comfortable only on the branch of a tree. Due to the expansion of human civilization and industrialization, the forests have been destroyed, which are an abode to most animals. Due to lack of space and eventually food, the populations of many organisms have been minimized. Lack of genetic diversity. Once the number of species starts decreasing, the gene pool of that species grows smaller. Eventually, there is a lack of genetic diversity. For egg. Due to habitat loss, the African cheetahs have a considerably low genetic diversity. Better adapted competition. The better adapted populations win over the ones that lag behind. For egg. The prehistoric mammals were better adapted than the dinosaurs. The ones which are well adapted survive, while the others become extinct. Pollution. The pollution from industries and vehicles has led to a drastic change in the oxygen levels in the atmosphere as well as water. This has led to the extinction of most of the aquatic as well as terrestrial species.
This is the end of the listening section. You will have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet.